Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. I would like to thank you so much for your great support that you've been showing us and also your feedback. We greatly appreciate it. I'm going to be making bread, the normal bread that we buy from the shops. That's what I'm going to be making. I used to make it when we were in SA, so I'm going to try and test myself again and see if I still got it. So I'm going to be using 5 cups of this cake flour, the snowflake cake flour. That's the one I usually make bread with. So I'm going to be using 5 cups of this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we've put our 5 cups of flour. The instant yeast, I use the whole pack. So I'm going to be adding the yeast, all of it. So the other thing, we first put all the dry ingredients. So I put yeast, and I'm also going to be, I'll put 1 cup of sugar. I'm also going to put half teaspoon of salt. Then we mix our dry ingredients. Oh, now we are using the wet ingredients. We can use buttercup if you've got butter, margarine. Then you can use about 3 to 4 tablespoons of butter. Or if you don't have butter, you can actually use cooking oil. That's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use 4 to 5 tablespoons. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I usually prefer using butter. It makes it more softer. But if I'm using cooking oil, then I have to add more tablespoons of it so that it's easier when I'm kneading. So I'm going to mix now. So the trick is when you are mixing and when you are kneading, when you're like now, I'm going to be adding water. So I'm going to be using this whole cup of warm water. So I'm going to be adding a little bit by bit when I'm mixing. You don't pour it all, because sometimes when you pour it all, it becomes when it becomes too damp, it's very hard to knead it. So I'm going to be adding bit by bit. So far I've used the entire cup, so I'm going to add another one, maybe to make it half, and I'll still add bit by bit. Now I'm using my hands to test the texture of the mixture. I'm going to be adding a bit of water now. And the water has to be warm, lukewarm, so that it helps to rise. The dough, it helps the dough to rise when you put it on the sun. So So I already made the first batch. Now this is the second loaf of bread that I'm making. I'm going to be showing you the first one that I made. It's on the sun already. On this recipe I'm using, it doesn't use an egg. So I'm going to, another day I'll make another one, using an egg for healthy reasons, for it to be more healthy, especially when we've got kids. But one thing I've discovered, the one without an egg tastes way more nicer than the one with an egg. I don't know, maybe preference differ, but I like the one without the egg. It tastes better. So there is my dough. So my hands, they already know the texture when it's ready. I think sometimes when the more you do something, your hands get used to. They actually know if it's done or if it's ready for kneading. Because the first days it was hard for me to note if it's ready for kneading. But now it is ready on my board. And then I'm going to start kneading. Let me add a bit. And I'm going to start kneading. The kneading part is the most exciting part, but also painful. Yeah. So I'm sprinkling a little bit of flour so that my dough doesn't stick on the board. Okay, so I'm going to knead for about 10 minutes. So I'm kneading. So with bread you have to knead a lot. You see this texture, this is what we want. So we're kneading it, and then I'm going to be putting it in a bowl. But before I do, I will grease the bowl with a little bit of oil. Then I put it in the sun for an hour or two for it to rise. Then I will knead it again. I'll put a little bit of oil in the bowl, and then I'm going to put my dough in the bowl, and then I'll cover it with a dish towel, or if you've got plastic or whatever you can use. I like the dish towel. Then I'll cover it, and I'm going to put it on the sun. Then I'll check on it in the next hour or two. So this is the bread that I made. I made 3 loaves. This one is the smaller one. It will go in the smaller tray, and these ones will go in the bigger trays. So I'm going to take the first one. I took the first one, which was in this bowl. Before I roll it, I'm going to knead it again. So So this bread was on the sun for 2 hours. The first hour I took it and I had to knead it and then put it back on the sun. So now I'm going to roll it to the desirable shape that will go on the tray, bread tray. Okay, so I'm going to grease my tray. So I'm going to just put a little bit of oil to grease the tray so that the bread doesn't stick. So that's the same thing that I'm going to do to all the trays as well. When you've got butter cup or margarine, you can still grease with margarine. Or if you've got, since we're in Zimbabwe, sometimes I actually buy the cook spray as well. If you've got cook spray, it makes your life easy as well, but I don't have right now, so I use the oil. But cook spray, I once bought it again in Pick and Pay. It's available in Pick and Pay. I think it's about $5 if I'm not mistaken. So there is our bread. Now I'm going to be extracting egg white from the egg so that I can use it on the bread, on top of the bread. You usually see the bread in the shops shining, so you can use egg white, or if you've got milk, you can use milk. So now I'm applying the egg white on the bread so that it gives a nice finish, brightish finish, shining. It will be shining with the egg white. So with the egg white, it will be shiny, and if you are using milk, it will have that white color on it. That's the same egg white you can use when making buns, the fresh buns or rolls. Okay, we're done. So now we're going to be putting it in the oven and baking for an hour on using 140 degrees. Okay. So we have begun baking now. As you can see, it's on an hour, and we put the 3 trays.